Don't worry, Mr. Sims. I look weird, but otherwise I'm real normal. Everything will be cool. Thanks a lot. See you next week.
The world knew the boy with the rare disease, but fewer knew the burden his mother carried. In her final days, she spoke out, and what she said changes everything we thought we knew about Rocky Dennis and about the hope in the midst of pain. Rocky Dennis wasn't supposed to live long. Doctors said his face would change faster than his future ever could. A rare bone disorder made him look different, but it didn't touch his spirit. People saw the illness, but they didn't always see the faith, the fight, and the silence his mother carried behind closed doors. Her name was Rusty Dennis, and for years she protected her son not just from a diagnosis, but from a truth she never spoke aloud. She was bold in public, defiant with doctors, and unshaken when others stared. But as her life drew near its end, something inside her broke open. In a quiet moment, away from cameras, away from reporters, she revealed the burden she'd been holding since the day Rocky was born. And what she said wasn't a tribute, it wasn't a memory. It was a warning, a confession, a truth she believed the world wasn't ready for until now. But what was she hiding? And why did she wait until her final days to speak? Each section will build tension, blend real events with deeper spiritual meaning, and lead the viewer into something bigger than Rocky's story alone. Rusty Dennis was loud when she needed to be, but silent when it mattered most. She fought schools, hospitals, and anyone who tried to limit her son. But behind that strength was something she never said out loud, a memory from the day Rocky was born. According to those close to her, Rusty once told a nurse, "I know he's not here by accident." She believed there was a reason his life would defy every medical chart. But what she didn't admit was that something happened before he took his first breath, something she believed shaped everything that followed. As her health declined years later, she finally began to talk about that moment, not as a story, but as a burden she feared the world had misunderstood. Was Rocky's life a battle against fate, or the result of a choice she never spoke about? In her final weeks, those who spent time with her say she referenced a promise she made when Rocky was born. She never shared it publicly. Some believe it was tied to fear. Others think it was tied to God. Rusty was not a church-going woman, but she often told friends that someone bigger than me had plans for her son. She once said she felt like Rocky was loaned to her, not given. That language, loaned, not owned, sounds more like the mothers of the Bible than a Hollywood figure. Think of Hannah in 1 Samuel, offering Samuel back to God. Think of Jochebed, hiding Moses with trust instead of fear. Some mothers carry miracles, others carry warnings. Rusty carried both. But what did she believe she owed, and to whom? Before Rocky turned 1, there was a night Rusty rarely discussed. Doctors had warned she should prepare to lose him, and grief nearly swallowed her. That night, she reportedly said something aloud in desperation, something only she and God heard. Friends say her regret in later years was tied not to his suffering, but to what she asked for in that moment, and what she offered in return. Mothers in Scripture made vows in the dark, vows that shaped nations. Rusty wasn't biblical, but desperation has a way of echoing old prayers. And she believed that night changed everything. Was Rocky's future tied to a vow his mother made in secret? Before she died, Rusty made it clear that what she shared wasn't for tabloids or filmmakers. It was for people who think pain is punishment. She said Rocky wasn't a curse or a victim. She believed his life exposed something about us, about how we measure worth, and about how we react to what we don't understand. The Bible is full of people whose appearance, condition, or weakness made others uncomfortable until God used them as mirrors. David was overlooked. Job was judged. The blind man in John 9 was assumed cursed until Jesus said, "This happened that the works of God might be revealed in him." Rusty hinted that Rocky's life wasn't just allowed, it was appointed. So what did she believe God was revealing through her son? People assume suffering parents always ask, "Why me?" But Rusty hinted she didn't ask that question because she believed she already knew the answer. Not from science, not from fate, but from something she heard the night she almost gave up. She confessed that she made a deal and believed God kept his side. That's why she said she could never walk away, even when others told her to give up. Like the mothers in the Bible, she learned that promises spoken in pain don't dissolve in daylight. What did she ask for, and what did she promise in return? In public, Rusty looked unbreakable, a woman who roared back at doctors, schools, and anyone who tried to define her son's future. People mistook that fire for fearlessness, but those closest to her knew something she never admitted on camera. She was terrified, not of what Rocky was, but of what people would do with his life if she ever lost control of the story. She once said they saw his face and thought that was the whole story. That line reveals more than most realize. To everyone else, Rocky's appearance was the battle. But to Rusty, his face was the distraction. She believed his life was sent to expose something in the world, not just to survive it. And that kind of purpose doesn't come from accident, diagnosis, or genetics. It comes from assignment. Rusty hinted more than once that she owed something. Not to the media, not to medicine, but to the moment she first held him. It was as if she believed someone, maybe even God himself, loaned her a child with a mission attached. And that terrified her more than losing him. Because what if she failed that mission? What if she misunderstood it? What if the world twisted it before she ever spoke it? A neighbor once shared that Rusty would sit on the porch late at night after Rocky was asleep, staring into the dark like she was guarding more than a child, like she was guarding a secret she didn't know how to carry. And years later, before she died, she admitted she kept silent because people aren't careful with what they don't understand. Like Paul's thorn in the flesh, Rocky's condition wasn't the defeat, it was the platform. But platforms come with pressure. Rusty feared not the burden itself, but the world's response to it. And maybe she feared what would happen when the truth behind his life finally surfaced. But what truth did she think the world still wasn't ready to face? As Rusty's life drew closer to its final chapter, something shifted in the way she spoke about Rocky. She didn't talk like a grieving mother hanging on to memories. She talked like someone who feared a responsibility left unfinished. And that's what haunted her, not what happened to Rocky, but what people did with his story after he was gone. She once said, "They felt sorry for him. They should have looked at themselves." That sentence alone tells you everything. She didn't believe Rocky was the one who needed fixing. She believed his life revealed something damaged in the people around him, the way society treats the different, the sick, the visibly imperfect, the ones who don't fit the picture we've drawn of normal.
What tormented her was the idea that Rocky's legacy became inspiration without reflection. People cried at his story, but few ever changed because of it. They admired his courage, but never confronted their own cruelty. They praised his strength, but ignored their prejudice. They saw a face shaped by disease and missed the mirror it held up to their own hearts. Rusty told one confidant that she feared the world had used her son as a symbol, but never heard the message God stitched into his existence. She believed Rocky didn't come to make people feel pity. He came to expose what they worship: beauty, comfort, ease, approval. And maybe that's why his presence unsettled some and healed others. The Bible tells stories of people who were signs more than survivors. Isaiah was told to walk as a prophetic picture. Hosea married pain to prove a point. The blind man in John 9 wasn't cursed. He was born that the works of God might be revealed. Rusty began to believe that Rocky was that kind of sign. And her final fear wasn't that people pitied her son, it was that they never let his life confront them. But what warning did she believe the world ignored, and why did she think time was running out to hear it? In the final stretch of her life, when the noise of the world had faded and there was nothing left to protect, Rusty Dennis finally said the words she had buried for decades. She didn't say them with drama. She didn't whisper them in shame. She spoke them as if she had carried them like a stone in her chest, waiting for the one moment she could finally release it. She said, "He wasn't the one who needed healing." That sentence stunned the person she spoke it to. Not because it sounded poetic, but because it revealed the weight behind all her silence. Rusty didn't see Rocky as the broken one. She believed his face revealed our brokenness. She believed his story exposed what people really value, how quick they are to judge what they don't understand, and how often they confuse disease with destiny. She feared that Rocky's life had been turned into a movie, a headline, a symbol, while the truth behind it was buried with him. She believed the real message was never about sympathy. It was about exposure. She said once, they stared at him like he was the problem, but maybe God was staring back at them through him. In Scripture, Jesus said the pure in heart will see God, yet the world often avoids the very vessels through which he tries to speak. Rusty believed Rocky's life held both a mirror and a warning. And what she finally confessed is that she waited to speak because she believed the world wasn't ready to hear the accusation hidden in his existence. She worried his story had become comfort when it was meant to confront. And that fear, that the message would die beneath admiration, is what weighed on her until her final days. Her last confession wasn't regret, it was revelation. If Rocky wasn't the one who needed healing, then who was?